Good evening, everyone. We want to welcome you to Eli Lilly's Chinese house, the House of the Sylvan Harmonies, and the Bluffs at Conner Prairie. What a remarkable facility that we have here. And we have to acknowledge this evening that when you do a shakeout event, by the way, this is the inaugural event for the opening. So you're here at about 96% completion of this project. So we're kind of working through some things this evening, and we appreciate you being here to help us do that. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to highlight, once again, the things that we're beginning to move forward with as you think about the Chinese house. If you've never been here before, you probably didn't realize the White River is right there. So this is an opportunity for us to see how Eli Lilly had a vision for this place, just like William Conner did, and how it would be used. And the fact that this house that was built by the Atkins family originally, when he purchased the property, he saw how it could be used as a summer retreat. And I think he'd be very pleased that we're continuing that legacy this evening with this annual meeting. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mayor Scott Fadness, who's the mayor of the city of Fishers, and he's going to welcome you to his city. It is your city, isn't it, Scott? Yes, he says yes. And say a few words about the relationship that the city of Fishers has had with Conner Prairie. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Norman. I'm actually here for two reasons. One, to apologize for the weather. The second is to apologize for the traffic. So, a little bit of a construction season, and I apologize, but we're going to get it done here in the near future. Couldn't be more excited to be here. This is my first time in this facility, and give them a round of applause. This is an amazing, amazing facility. I feel as though Conner Prairie and the city of Fishers were kindred spirits, and why I say that is the other day I had the opportunity to visit Norman and his leadership team as they were talking about a strategy and their strategic retreat and what their vision is for the future. And it was as if I could have choreographed what it is they were talking about, what the future lies ahead for Conner Prairie is in direct alignment with where the city of Fishers needs to go, where the state of Indiana needs to go. And so what's so exciting to me is that Conner Prairie is once again leading the way, innovating in museums, innovating in culture, being a leader in this narrative and dialogue about inclusiveness and equity and understanding what our truths are. And Norman, couldn't be prouder of the work that you're doing. I mean, I've never been more excited about what's happening right now at Conner Prairie. It's because of your leadership. It's because of the board's willingness to support that vision. And I welcome you all here today, and I look forward to seeing the unveiling of the vision to come. Thank you, Norman.
You can tell that he's quite a bit taller than I am, but I'm actually on the lavalier mic, so I don't need that after all. So once again, this annual meeting is an opportunity for us to come together once a year and really talk about the things that Conner Prairie has been doing in the previous year, kind of give you a highlight as our supporters, as our members, and we have staff members, we have volunteers in the room. It's an opportunity for us to all come together and really celebrate Conner Prairie. So can I let everyone give a big round of applause for Conner Prairie? And that's really what this meeting is about this evening. It's about celebrating Conner Prairie. It's about celebrating the vision of people who saw what this land could be. When William Conner and his brother John came down from Michigan and Ohio, and they saw that this was an opportunity to work and eventually would lead to statehood in this area. When you look at Eli Lilly and his love of history, to preserve it and be able to teach history in a way that books could not. And the fact that he had a love of Chinese art, and he took this space and he decided to express that love of Chinese art with this new facility, or with this facility that he had purchased. So this is a wonderful way to celebrate all those things this evening. The Chinese house was purchased by, or actually this 115 acres and the Atkins Darrich house that was sitting here was purchased by Eli Lilly in 1949, and he immediately saw its potential not only as a summer retreat, but also as an opportunity to begin to highlight a new interest for him, which was Chinese art. And he began to bring that that and furnishings together, and this became a summer retreat. His wife held bridge here, and I think they had corporate meetings here and all those things. So the House of Sylvan Harmonies is really that. It's a place where you can put kind of art and history and nature all together, and a quiet space. A space where really your soul can begin to just be quiet and listen and contemplate about the things you want to do. And I think that's a big part of what Conner Prairie's future is. Looking at the river, looking at our history, looking at our ability to let people find a space that they can learn in. And I think that's a wonderful thing that Eli Lilly set the legacy for us. We're very fortunate that we wanted to do a little bit more with the Chinese house. We knew we wanted to do a restoration. And I want to give a big kudos to our program, interpretation, and exhibit and education staff, or what we call as the PI area. So Rich Cooper, and especially the exhibits team and curatorial staff, for the wonderful job they did of reimagining the space and the exhibits. And Rich and Jesse and your teams are back out there. And so let's give them a round of applause. All of the exhibits that you see in the restored Chinese house, remarkable part of that. I know the first time I walked into this space, I was just overwhelmed by a sense of who Eli Lilly was, and I could just see the vision. And then as we started thinking about how we could restore this place, knew that we wanted to tell the story of Eli Lilly. And I think Jesse and his team really captured that in the Lilly Legacy Room, and so I greatly appreciate that. We also knew that we wanted to serve more people here. We had already been using it as a rental space. So had Earlham College for 40 years, and we continued that tradition, but we knew we could do more. And so we went out and we found a partner, and we're so pleased that Rich Charles was interested in this space to work with us, and that they were willing to make a capital investment with us to build the bluffs at Conner Prairie. So let's give them a round of applause. What went from our idea of having a concrete slab here with a tent on it, you heard me, that's kind of what we were thinking about doing, to the space that you're in this evening, I think you can see it's really evolved in the last 2 years. And it's because of the vision of our board and the great support of many of the donors that are in this room that have made it possible. And one of those is Rich Charles, who stepped up to the plate and said, we see the vision that you have for the river. We see how special this place is. There will never be another place like this. You can build an event venue just about anywhere, can't you, Mark? But you cannot replicate what you find in this location. And they saw that vision. And so Mark Safranek is one of the co-owners of Rich Charles. And Mark, I'd like for you to come up and just say a few words to our group.
Isn't this a beautiful place? I'm just so pleased. We're so proud. Rich Charles is so proud to be a part of this endeavor. Conner Prairie had the vision. It's a great, you just put the past and the future together by having the historic Chinese house renovated and restored, and then you move into a space like this where it's a kind of a seamless transition. It feels almost like a lodge, doesn't it? It's beautiful. You come up a windy road and it opens up into this beautiful wooded area right next to the river. Why wouldn't we want to be a partner in this? It's a really, really beautiful place, and I think with our services, our experience, and what we're putting together in this space, we have dozens of events already booked, sight unseen. Just imagine, being a bride and wanting to have your wedding here at the at Conner Prairie. So, we're so excited to be here, to be a part of it. We're honored as a company, and the vision that Conner Prairie has with all their unique experiences and programming. I think this is going to really benefit them and the community, because I think the monies generated from this site are really going to help with the additional programming, with putting back to the community, and we're going to do lots of events here. We're going to do corporate events, wedding receptions. Think about having your retreat here. Wouldn't it be lovely? And I'm just thrilled to be a part of it, and we're lucky. I'd like to thank the City of Fishers, the board here at Conner Prairie, all the individual donors that have supported the Conner Prairie and helped us have this vision come to life. Thank you so much.
Hello. From its very beginning, Conner Prairie was created by visionaries, starting with William Conner and his brother John, who traveled down from the Detroit area to the Indiana Territory via the river and land in 1800. When he set his eyes upon the land that Conner Prairie currently occupies, I believe William Conner immediately had a vision for what this place could become. In August of 1802, he finished his log cabin near the bend of the White River and established a successful trading post here. Through the years, this site and William Conner played a key role in Indiana's earliest history. In 1820, the commission chosen by the General Assembly of Indiana met at Conner's cabin to decide upon the location of the future state capital. The year 1823 was a busy one for William Conner. He not only built his brick house, but also a post office was established on the property. Hamilton County was initiated, and the First Circuit Court met on the premises. Conner would go on to serve in the Indiana State Legislature for 2 terms. He laid out the design of nearby Noblesville and Alexandria, and was involved in the development of the state's transportation and school systems. Over the years, through hard work and dedication, William Conner's vision solidified his role as a founder of Indiana and our Hoosier heritage. William Conner's vision was also recognized by Eli Lilly, another visionary who is also responsible for the houses and structures on which we are standing tonight. Eli Lilly saw William Conner's vision as he walked around the crumbling estate in the mid-1930s, and I believe he had a vision for what the neglected lands could become. And that vision was a place where history could be taught in ways that books could not. Some are familiar with this story regarding how he purchased the land and set about restoring it with his wife, Ruth. However, many are unaware that they were dedicated to collecting historically accurate and relevant artifacts, furniture, buildings, and more to create what we now know as Prairie Town. His goal was to build a place where all people, regardless of age or background, could learn about the visionary, William Conner, his legacy, and to have the ability to teach about life on the prairie in Indiana. His vision didn't stop there. He was committed to creating a place for learning, innovating, challenging, and inspiring curiosity. His vision was a museum that would hold all this knowledge and provide it to the world for ages to come. His vision was Conner Prairie. Today, we stand on the legacy of these visionary giants and continue to build on their ideas to increasingly tell our stories, open our doors to endless possibilities of growth and exploration, adventure and education, excitement and introspection. Conner Prairie is a unique historic place that inspires curiosity and fosters learning by providing engaging and individualized experiences for everyone. We continue to push their visions forward and add our own ideas that open us up to opportunities for all, that engage our land, river, and our staff to its fullest potential. Who knows, perhaps in the next 100 years, we too will be viewed as visionaries that brought Conner Prairie to the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Taylor Bennett.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Thank you for coming tonight to Conner Prairie's annual meeting. I am absolutely thrilled and honored to moderate our conversation tonight in this fabulous and stunning venue. I think I actually want to live here. It's so beautiful. I love the White River and the scenery. But Conner Prairie has a special place in my heart. I have always loved coming here, going way back to when I was in elementary school, coming out on those field trips. I still have the gift that my mom gave me money for to go to the gift shop. It's a pig. And she goes, "Why did you get a pig?" And I was like, "I like pigs." But, and I took my kids here to a lot of the events here. My kids loved it here. They loved the Headless Horseman and Yummy Apple Store, which is very good. So it truly holds a special place in my heart, and I'm truly honored to be back out here, and I look forward to spending more time out here. So joining me tonight, I'm very honored to have a conversation tonight with the president and the CEO of Conner Prairie, Norman Burns, and also our board chair, Rich Thrapp. So if you want to welcome me up here, and we'll have a conversation. it's such an honor to talk to both of you. I know that I talked to you, Norman, last year when I came out and interviewed you and learned a lot of things, but tell us a little bit about yourself. Norman, if you want to go first, it's something maybe we don't know.
Well, something you don't know. So I'm going to share something that's very personal with everyone, other than the fact that I'm a public historian. I've been doing this type of work for 32 years. I'm named for my father. My name is Norman Osborne Burns II. So my father was senior, but he did not want to call me junior, because if you're from Tennessee and you're junior, you're called Bubba. So he decided to give me a nickname that I went by from basically birth all the way through early college, and they took the initials NOB and added a Y. So my wife knew me as Noby Burns, not Norman Burns. So
That is interesting.
my earliest memories of history was sitting and hearing stories of my grandfather and other people in the community when I was Noby Burns. And that's where my love of history started, was oral traditions with my family, and that's what really led me to wanting to become a historian. And that's why Conner Prairie is such a remarkable place for me, because it really fits my ability to continue that process of learning and telling more stories.
Rich, what about you?
Well, first of all, it's great to be here with you and Noby.
I'm probably going to regret that.
Yeah,
Well, that's okay.
your new name.
I am an open book.
I'm from a small town in northern Indiana, and we could be out into the woods or a cornfield within 5 minutes. And I grew up that way. When I came to Indianapolis, Conner Prairie was the closest thing to that. This is just a wonderful, fabulous place. And I've been involved here for decades, and for a lot of people that know, I proposed to my wife here. Fortunately, she said yes. I think if I had asked her at any other place, she might not have said yes. So we also had the celebration of life for my father-in-law here in the Chinese house 7 or 8 years ago. But in terms of my role as chairman of the board, one of the things that I think was our greatest success was the search committee that I chaired when we hired Norman. So I think you're right, Norman. I think you are a visionary. And it is a wonderful thing to see all these things come to fruition. To me, Conner Prairie is like a diamond. It's got many facets. 3 of the most important ones, the most beautiful ones to me, are first, it is its place, its physical location. 1,000 acres, undeveloped. So we have wonderful growing fishers, but we have set aside this over 1,000 acres with 3.3 miles of river from all the development that's going on, so that we can enjoy the space into the future. That space is something that when we had the 2016 annual meeting, we had a speaker come. His name was Scott Sampson, and he talked about how to raise a wild child. And what he was saying is that today, on average, children spend over 7 hours in front of a screen. And the World Health Organization just announced today that the amount of time spent in front of a screen for children is doing damage to their health and damage to their development. Conner Prairie offers the opportunity to get those children outside and enjoy nature. Nothing's more better than virtual reality than reality. So the aspect of Conner Prairie being a special place is one of its facets that make it so beautiful. The second one is it's a history museum. Now, one thing about history, and to me, history is the study of change. When you go back in time, you realize things were different there at that time. So from that time to this, there has been a change. Why did that change occur? What were the values, what were the principles of the people that caused that change to occur? And the study of that is so fascinating and interesting. It's much more beyond just books and learning facts and figures and dates. So when you look at, for example, when women got the right to vote in 1920, it's just stunning to think that that was so recent in our history. And Conner Prairie, when I first got involved heavily in its activities, had a debate between Sarah Evans Barker and Henry Ryder about women's suffrage. It was the most fascinating debate, and I walked away feeling like I was there. So when you see that sort of a change, you know how Conner Prairie can take you beyond traditional methods of education. And then the third facet that I think is just beautiful about Conner Prairie is its ability to celebrate. Conner Prairie is a celebration. So you start with the celebration of the human spirit, human ingenuity, and music. So Symphony on the Prairie is a way that we all gather together to celebrate. We celebrate community. Festival of Machines, we celebrate innovation. We celebrate now weddings and other events that are special in each of our lives. So that's what Conner Prairie means to me. It's a beautiful gem.
It really is. Norman, last year you talked about a museum that was basically in the works. There was a lot of going on here, a lot of work. This year, it seems like a lot of that work's still ongoing, but there's a lot that has been done. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that have been accomplished just in the last year, besides this beautiful building?
Yes, Taylor, we're obviously still a museum at work. I mean, everyone who arrived this evening, you see all the work that's being done on Allisonville Road. You can see we're nearly complete with the work on the Chinese house, but we are still doing a lot of work, and we're fortunate that the reason we do this work is we live in a remarkable community, and the cities and the community of Hamilton County is very special, and they're very supportive of the work we do, so we're very mindful of that, and we continue to do the work as a result of that. But the work really begins with our dedicated and passionate staff and volunteers. And we have many of our staff and volunteers in the audience this evening. So would you please stand so we can recognize, because they're the ones who do this work. They do it because they're passionate about inspiring curiosity and foster learning. They do it because they believe in their community. And then we also have obviously daily guests and members and donors, many of you in the room. You've all helped us reach new heights this past year, and that's why we've been able to open new exhibits and develop innovative programs like we have. Obviously, we've had construction projects that have been ongoing this past year, and they're being completed this year. The Chinese house restoration, one example of that, and of course the bluffs here, that's really giving us a continuation of that Lilly legacy that's related to that. But also the Prairie House, which has been the home of our summer camp program since 1984. We're increasing its capacity by 50%, which means we're going to be able to serve even more children for summer camp programs, give them a space. I know Chris Petrelli, who's back there, I know he's looking forward to having more space and to be able to work with the campers, but it also means it's given us an opportunity to do alternative type programming, a teacher resident program with Hamilton Southeastern Schools that'll be using that space come this fall. And of course, I mentioned all the exhibits, and one of the ones that you've seen this evening is the Lilly Legacy Room. But I think one of the things that I'm really proud of that we've been working on so hard this past year, Taylor, is really our mission. Last December, our board authorized a new strategic plan that had a mission and vision and strategic initiatives in it, and it really got to the core values of what Conner Prairie is about and aspirations of how we want to serve. So at our core, Conner Prairie is a unique historic place. That'll never change. When William Conner arrived, and the reason that Eli Lilly was so impressed is because this is a unique historic place. The land, the river, everything that's associated with that. So our aspiration is that we will continue to inspire curiosity and foster learning by providing engaging and specialized and individualized experiences for everyone. And so we really want to open the door and say that we can serve everyone. And what that means for us is we may not have the physical ability to serve everyone, but we should not exclude anyone. And so I think that's a big mindset or change for Conner Prairie in the way that we're approaching that. And then we also created a new vision for the organization that speaks how we're really looking out on the horizon. And that vision is that Conner Prairie will expand the boundaries of our natural and historical resources by exploring, and you mentioned celebrating, and improving the human experience. And for me, the human experience is what history is all about. And so that's what Conner Prairie has always done. So I'm really proud of how our staff, that are very creative and passionate, embraced and presented the previous mission statement. I'm really excited about the work we're going to continue to do this year as we begin to serve the community with this new mission.
Rich, anything you want to add about any of those experiences or programs?
Well, I think the spirit of cooperation that Norman has instilled both in his leadership team and has been fully supported by the board has enabled us to accomplish more than what we could on our own. For example, the joint venture with Rich Charles for this facility is one example. But there's a lot of other ones where when you team up with people where you have common visions and goals, not only can you help raise philanthropic dollars, but you can also raise strategic dollars because you're solving a community need and furthering the mission. And the other thing that I am just so proud of with this group is that when Conner Prairie talks about values and principles, they walk the talk. And let me give you two examples that I'm most pleased with in my service as chair. And one of them is that the approach that Conner Prairie's taken to diversity, access, inclusion, and equity. Those are a lot of words, but the reality behind it is that this is a welcoming place to everyone, regardless of their background, regardless of their creed, their color, their gender, religion, sexual orientation, physical, mental, or learning capabilities. And the idea that we affirmatively invite people who have autism to our facility is extraordinary. The fact that we have programs for those that need memory care is fantastic. So I think we're not only a forum in which we can celebrate in a controlled sense in terms of the ability to go back into history and experience some of these turbulent times so that you can have civil discourse regarding it. But then we also, in the way that we administer our own programs, the way that we administer our own land, we can speak volumes. And I think there's more to be seen in that as well.
Norman, it sounds like 2018 was pretty successful for Conner Prairie.
It was. I mean, we've talked about programs. I mean, exhibits like what we've been doing with rethinking education with the Prairie House. We did a lot out at Treetop Outpost when we think about Fort Hoosier and the outdoor nature classroom and the river lookout. I mean, who knew we had 3.3 miles of river, right? Because you can never see it from Conner Prairie, but now you have remarkable views. And as a result of all the work we've been doing, we've become a certified nature classroom. And I think that's a remarkable step for Conner Prairie this past year. But really, these new programs and exhibits that we've been talking about this evening and the experiences, they've really helped sustain operation and attendance. This evening, everyone, I have a prop. Susanna, you see I have the prop in my hand. Everyone received a lanyard that has a jump drive on it, and this jump drive actually has our annual report for 2018. So I encourage you to rush home, put that jump drive in your laptop, or do it now if you have your laptop with you, I guess, and download that annual report. But let me give you a few highlights because that's one of the things that we always do at annual meetings like this. So I'm very pleased to report that in 2018, we concluded with our 13th consecutive year with a balanced budget of nearly $12 million. You should clap for that. And that budget is supported by earned and contributed income as well as endowment. And really that success is due to our finance team, but specifically our Chief Financial and Operations Officer, Kyle Winger, and his staff. And Kyle, you're here somewhere. There's Kyle in the back. And so let's give Kyle and his team, anyone else that's in the accounting team and everything, if you'll be recognized. But Kyle really has done a great job of helping us visualize how we should mobilize our assets and use them in our planning process. And he really keeps us focused on those things as a leadership team. So thank you for doing that, Kyle, for having such a steady hand and a keen eye, and especially when some of your colleagues, we want to spend, because we want to advance programming. Also, gifts, sponsorships, and grants was a big part of the contributed income, and we're so pleased. It grew by 41% last year. $2,878,638 of contributions due to the remarkable work that our Chief Development Officer, Andrew Bradford, and his creative and passionate team did. And Andrew's back in the back somewhere. Andrew, where are you? Andrew? Did Andrew walk out of the room? Can the rest of the development staff raise your hand, everyone that works on Andrew's team? And they did a great job. Here they are back here. They did a great job of working with our marketing and communications team and putting this event together this evening. So I want to thank them for that. I'm really proud of the fact that despite challenging weather and road construction this past year, we had our second largest attendance ever, serving over 402,000 people. So I think that's pretty remarkable considering we had weather like this a lot of last year. So I think that's a big change. And it really shows how our organization is beginning to evolve, because we've become much more nimble and creative in addressing changing conditions and trends. And I'd like to thank Susana Suarez as our Chief Marketing Officer and the Marketing Communications team for how they have really begun to look at aggressive digital campaigns that are anchoring weather-triggered ads from our digital platform. So now, if it's raining outside, within a 45-mile radius, you actually get an ad that says, there's things to do inside Conner Prairie. If it's a really nice day, we stole the fact that we have all of this land that you can come out and walk the trails and do all the things in Prairie Town and the other things that we have available. If it's a really hot day, a lot of people think, I don't want to go out to Conner Prairie if it's 90 degrees. Well, did you realize that 50% of our experience area is shaded? So it's a wonderful place to come out and stroll and sit under a shade tree and do those things. And that's how we're beginning to reposition and once again make our members and other people in the community aware of what we're doing. And once again, I want to thank the Marketing Communications team for the great job they did of putting on this annual meeting this evening with everyone else's help. So let's give them a round of applause. So it's not a coincidence, Taylor, that our leadership team really understands that the needs of our community are ever changing. And so museums like Conner Prairie and our colleagues in other places, we need to make sure that we're always addressing these change and needs in the community that we serve. And I think that's a big part of what Rich was talking about. Examples of that are that we had a grant from Duke Energy Foundation last year that helped us take our unique approach to integrating history and STEM through Create Connect out in the classrooms. So our Prairie Mobile was able to reach, I think, nearly 2,000 students even by the end of last year. And most of those are students in rural Indiana that otherwise could not have attended Conner Prairie. And that was all made possible because we recognized that there was a need to reach out and do those things. We also, last January, opened Make Smith Workshop, which is our way of, once again, taking the things that we do so well, the making movement, the creating, and allow kids to do that inside year-round. And so both of those are really examples of how we leverage philanthropic support to really help investment and engage more people at Conner Prairie. And that's an example of how, once again, the changing trend. So that's been a big part of what we've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, you both have mentioned that Conner Prairie has something for everyone. It's not just that destination for those, you know, fourth grade field trips, which I still remember. But I mean, there's so much more here.
That's right. I mean, people think a fourth grade field trip or Symphony on the Prairie, but have you seen the changes that are happening with Symphony on the Prairie this year? So we're even beginning to change that. So what we've really been doing is we've been focusing on recognizing and serving some new audiences. And you're going to continue to see us evolve over time in how we do that. For instance, changing special events and festivals to reach younger audiences. We've been doing Headless Horseman for 36 years now, I believe, and it's a wonderful family tradition. But we knew that we needed to reach teenagers, so that's why we started doing the corn maze 2 years ago, and last year we expanded that in order to get in a scary maze as well, so 11 acres, because teenagers really like the idea of going through a scary maze. And then there are some, like millennials, and some that like craft beer that like the idea of having a beverage for events like that. So we were happy to partner with Sun King Brewery to create a special brew just for Headless Horseman like last year. And so reaching millennials and teenagers and those audiences is a big part. We also partner with a lot of organizations in the community like BACA dealing with autism and not only moving forward with our autism awareness through opening days, but also working with BACA to place a young man that's been working with us 2 years, has done a remarkable job, Jimmy Kiefel, of working with us in data entry, but also an artist that we were able to display his art this past March. Matter of fact, it's still up in the museum today. So if you haven't seen Through Jimmy's Eyes, please go up on the second floor of our Museum Experience Center and make sure that you see that. I think, Jesse, it's up through March 12th, so make sure you go see that. I said May 12th, thank you. So once again, that's an example, but we've also partnered with other organizations, Open Memory Cafe, which is through Dementia Friendly Indiana, which is really a safe place for individuals that has Alzheimer's or other dementia-related things, but also a place for their caregivers to come. And that's something that's missing. You don't think about the folks that are the caregivers and that they need a safe place to come to. And I know Kelsey and the other members of our staff has done such a remarkable job with those memory cafes, and it's been a big thing that we've enjoyed.
What do you think, Rich?
Well, the other thing that Norman hasn't mentioned, but it's because of some of the strength of the programs, and I would say the history, the academic history that is being taught and experienced at Conner Prairie that have caused Norman to be on the national scene in a way that I think is very complimentary to us here, but also promotes a vision, a worldwide vision that museums really need to be a place that are changed so that they can contribute to this sense of how history can help us today with respect to the problems of today. So it's an audacious goal to have Conner Prairie help change the worldview as to how museums are used, and I think, and to how the public views the museums. And the fact that we're taking that battle on in the big picture also comes to our benefit here in central Indiana. So yeah, I think there's a lot going on. In fact, as a board, I remember having a discussion with Norman saying, "Are you biting off more than you can chew?" And Norman said, "We're doing a lot, but no, the answer is no. We can do all these things all at the same time, so I think we just sit back, give him the support he needs, and say, you and your team, let's see how high you can fly."
You know, Rich mentioned it. I mean, Conner Prairie is taking more of a national role in the importance of history. What are some of the things that you're doing as far as that is concerned and getting the museums out there more?
Well, one of the things that we were recently recognized by the International Coalition of Sites of Conscience as one of their sites of conscience, which has really put us in a different arena as how we begin to look at social justice type issues. And we're just in the first steps of that, so I think that's important. But we've also been a member of the History Relevance campaign, which is a grassroots effort that was started about 5 years ago, and I'm fortunate enough to serve on the National Steering Committee for that group. And when I arrived at Conner Prairie, we immediately were one of the early endorsers of that group and the value of history statement, which really explains why history is essential in contemporary life. So I'm very pleased that Conner Prairie was part of that. So History Relevance basically is about how history connects. The fact that history is more impactful when it connects the people and the events and the places and the stories and the ideas of the past with the same group in today. So the people, events, places, and stories and ideas that are most important and meaningful to communities and people and audiences of today. So that's a long way of saying that you take what people did in the past and you help people understand that, and it really helps inform the present. So I really believe that history museums like Conner Prairie have a key role to play in that, and that we're well positioned to foster learning, help build bridges across culture. That's why our diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion promise is a big part of that. We're wanting to reach across, and we're wanting to make sure that we can serve everyone. And I think history relevance and what we're doing as history museums today reminds us that we've all faced trying times before. Individually, as a nation, we've done that. And really, history points us towards the times in history where we also work together to overcome our differences and make our country a better place. And I think museums, once again, changing the way that people view and use museums. We are that safe place. We always have been, but I think especially today, we need to make sure that we're a place that people can come and have these type of conversations. You know, there was a time when civil discourse was the norm in society, and people could disagree without being disagreeable, and public debate was always viewed by facts, not fiction, which you find today. So, it's really been top of my mind and my desire that I think Conner Prairie can really put kindness back in humankind and civility back in civilization. As a matter of fact, I know we can, because there's a lot of information out there, not just history relevance, but other things that points to this. The American Alliance of Museums has put out some data that shows that history museums are the #1 most trustworthy source of information in America. Number one, history museums. So we scored on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being least trusted, and 10 being the most trusted. And you might imagine governmental officials was really low on that scale. We were high. History museums, 6.7%, and we were more trustworthy than even academic historians and researchers. So that shows you how people feel. And then there's been other studies that talks about the value of museums and field trips in education. One recent study that was done that showed that field trips to museums really help demonstrate or helped children improve their critical thinking skills, historical empathy, and tolerance. So all those things are very important.
Right, and there's so many interactive things too at a museum that kind of get you involved in a little bit of history yourself. You can actually, you know, make something and be a part of history, and
Yeah.
I love the interactive part of it.
Well, you know, history has such a reputation of being stodgy. You know, in classroom, you got to learn facts, figures, events, dates. You watch documentaries. And at Conner Prairie, what Norman is talking about is bringing a richness, a color to otherwise an academic pursuit that some find to be less desirable. There was a professor, I believe it was in North Carolina, that was giving a speech about the decline of history as an academic pursuit and some of the causes of it, and why other areas of education have progressed beyond what history education has progressed. And the solution that this professor had was to use museums, and history museums in particular, as the way to have, like a laboratory might have in science development. And so with that kind of role, we can do our experiments right here in central Indiana, but really influence the country.
Norman, I believe there was a public opinion poll that was conducted, is that correct, about museums?
That's correct. Actually, we, Conner Prairie itself, actually paid to have this public opinion poll done because we wanted to test some ideas about the very things that we've been talking about. So we knew that we needed to help people connect the dots between what history tells us and how they view that. And for example, in our public opinion poll, and this is across America, a sampling size of 1,000, and I believe 49 of 50 states were polled. Survey found that 96% of Americans believe it's important to look at our history to inform our future. So that's a pretty significant number that's doing that. And 82% of Americans think it's important that history museums step up to create that sense of place that we were talking about earlier, and a place for community and civil discourse for greater understanding. Once again, proving some of these things that we've been saying about that, and that I think 82% of Americans in our poll said that history is important for critical thinking. And so those were all things that we wanted to test. Conner Prairie's helping test for the History Relevance campaign and other things like that.
All right. Well, I know we'll have to wrap it up soon, but I did want to ask you what's in store for 2019 and beyond.
Well, we're going to be doing a lot of things related to, once again, our strategic plan, and we have some strategic initiatives that are focused really on 4 areas, sustainability being one of those, so sustainability of these natural and historical resources, as well as what we're doing with the museum. We're going to be enhancing our existing experiences and looking to do more with that, so a lot with the museum experiences, creating more year-round type things. We want to engage the community, land and brand, and really create a natural campus. We already started that process last year with what we did out at Treetop Outpost and River Outlook and creating that nature classroom. We want to continue to do more along those lines, and we want to really connect people and partners. And part of that connectivity is how people find out about Conner Prairie. So we're very happy to announce that we are launching our new website this evening. So if you go to our old website, www.connerprairie.org, and I think it's nearly complete, meaning it may still be a little under construction, but once again, I can tell you that Emma Hopper and her team have been working diligently for about 5 months now, and it's just been I know it's been a long haul, so we just want to thank you so much for the great job that's been done for this. And There may be still a few things that we have to work out the kinks. I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to go back to my office this evening and take a look at that myself. But that's one of the things. And then the other big thing that we're ready to announce is that we're rethinking the holiday experience or reimagining the holiday experience at Conner Prairie. So we'll continue to have the seasonal favorites that you've had, breakfast and dinner with Santa, as well as being able to stroll through Prairie Town and such. But you're also going to be able to participate in nighttime holiday-themed festival with decoration of lights, and you're going to be able to ride through the property, and you might even, well, you not might, you're going to be able to glide down Indiana's newest dry tubing hill, as well as riding on a vintage carousel, and there's going to be Santa's Workshop in Featherston Barn. There's just going to be so many fun things for people to do. And that same poll I mentioned earlier, 76% of Americans said that's the type of activity they want at places like Conner Prairie.
Create a lot of special memories.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. Rich?
Oh, I just think it's an exciting time, extremely exciting time. You know, a year ago, this place was just an idea. Here we are today. So that shows you how fast this group can bring a very worthwhile idea and turn it into a program, an exhibit, and something that's going to attract not only our youth, but also those of us as we get into the areas where we want to spend more time learning new things and exciting things. So I think it's a good time to be at Conner Prairie.
Well, thank you both so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. We're very fortunate this evening. We have a keynote speaker who has a significant connection to the Chinese house and the Lilly legacy. Enrico Conterno is the Senior Vice President and President of Lilly Diabetes and Lilly USA. Since joining the Lilly company in 1992, Conterno has worked in leadership roles in sales, finance, marketing, business development, and general management. Prior to working for the company's U.S. operations, he also served as marketing and sales director for affiliates in Brazil and Peru. Also as executive marketing director for the Intercontinental region in Japan, as well as general manager for Lilly Mexico. Enrique is a member of the Board of Governors at the American Red Cross, the Board of Visitors at Duke University's Fuqua School of Business, and the Board of Directors at the Indiana Latino Institute. Enrique is also a member of the Board of Directors of the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce, having served as the board chair in 2016. He earned his bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Case Western Reserve University and a master's degree in business administration from Duke University. And he told me earlier when he arrived, Norman, I used to have meetings out here. I'll let him tell the rest of the story.
Norman, thank you for the introduction, and it's a true pleasure to be here. And what an amazing job! What an amazing job! As Norman mentioned, we used to have a tradition with my team to come to the Chinese house to solve difficult problems, and it used to be musty. So when I look at the renovation, it's truly incredible. I think we're going to be coming a lot more often. So thank you for inviting me to be part of your meeting today. It is truly a pleasure to be here with people who care so much about Indiana, and more specifically, the beauty and charm of Conner Prairie. I lived in the area for about 2.5 decades. And Conner Prairie is truly one of the state's finest treasures. From the museum experience to the summer concerts to the fall festivals, you bring families together, like perhaps no other institution in central Indiana. Thank you for everything you're doing to create a lifetime
of memories for people across the Hoosier State. As some of you know, I'm originally from Peru, and no, not Peru, Indiana. I was raised in a strong, loving family, and as Norman mentioned, I graduated from Case Western Reserve University as an engineer and then went to Duke. And I had a great opportunity. I wasn't looking to join Lilly, but I had a great opportunity to visit the company, and here I am 26 years later. As you probably know, Lilly has been on the cutting edge of medical research. Nearly 100 years ago, we brought insulin to patients, enabling people for the first time to be able to survive. People that had type 1 diabetes basically had a death sentence at that time. We also became the first company to mass produce the polio vaccine developed by Jonas Salk. And later we revolutionized the treatment of depression by bringing with the discovery of Prozac. Today we are helping people across a wide range of challenging conditions like diabetes, cancer, psoriasis, debilitating migraine headaches. And I'm personally thankful to lead an organization, our global diabetes business, that helps millions of people live longer and healthier lives. Diabetes is no longer a death sentence. Today, people live long, fruitful, fulfilling lives. On our downtown campus, we have a monument that honors people who have successfully used insulin for 75 years. And we actually have plaques, and we do special ceremonies celebrating the lives of those people. And knowing that our work has led to longer, healthier lives for people living with diabetes and better opportunities for families is meaningful to everyone that works at Lilly. But while discovering new, innovative medicines is what we do for a living, the people of our company, like the family of our founder, Colonel Eli Lilly, have always been focused on making medicines and our community, making our communities better. In fact, Colonel Lilly turned over management of the pharmaceutical enterprise to his son, Josiah, in the late 19th century to allow himself more time for charitable and civic work. Colonel Lilly founded what was once known as the Commercial Club, which eventually became the Chamber of Commerce. And I'm honored to have served on the executive committee and to be of the Greater Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce a few years back, and as well as chair. The Lilly's family's philanthropic arm and the Lilly Endowment today is among the top 5 endowments in the country and is reshaping the look and the culture of our Hoosier communities. The Lilly family truly deeply care about Indiana's heritage, which is a big reason that I'm here today. Your rededication of the Chinese house, which became the summer home of Colonel Lilly's grandson, Mr. Eli Lilly, is a vivid and real-time reminder of our heritage, both at Conner Prairie and at Eli Lilly and Company. As you know, the Chinese house is also called Shen Hoshi, or the House of Sylvan Harmonies. And the transformation of this building underscores the passion and the roots of the Lilly family. It also provides an intriguing glimpse into their priorities. Their love of Chinese art and culture was closely tied to their passion for strong relationships and global peace. After World War II, Eli Lilly and his wife Ruth took an interest in Chinese art, particularly scrolls, paintings, and porcelain, all while guiding the company through the post-war readjustment. But his mere interest became a passion when he read a book entitled The Meeting of East and West, written by F.S.C. Northrop, a professor of philosophy at Yale. The book, which was written during World War II, correctly predicted the clash of Eastern and Western ideologies and the impact Eastern thought on the United States and Western Europe. Mr. and Mrs. Lilly had already been deeply concerned about the effects of the war on the Republic of China and had contributed to war relief in part due to the friendship he had built with Dr. K.K. Chen, who worked for 34 years in pharmacological research at Lilly. In part, the book said world peace was not possible until the fears that were generated by antagonism between different civilizations were eradicated. And the first step in mending those differences between the East and the West was cultivating an understanding of the culture that was specific to each. Fast forward to today. The transformation of the Chinese house, which was significantly influenced by Dr. Chen and his wife, Dr. Amy Ling Chen, after they became close friends with Eli Lilly, is spectacular. Your commitment to returning the beauty and authenticity of this home is something that will greatly please the Lilly family. You have found a way to tie the present with the past. Of this building and of Corner Prairie, Eli Lilly once said, "The site and the structure are one of the most historic monuments in the state of Indiana." Eli Lilly believed art was not created for the sake of art alone. Rather, it served a moral purpose. On behalf of everyone who loves Corner Prairie and loves the deep heritage of our state, thank you for keeping his vision alive. As someone who spent his childhood in South America, but has been in Indiana long enough to call himself a Hoosier, I'm fascinated by the legacy of the Lilly family. Their generosity knew no boundaries, and their appreciation for heritage and simpler things in life underscored their values. In fact, historic preservation became one of Mr. Lilly's hobbies later in life. Shortly after Mr. and Mrs. Lilly began donating Chinese art to institutions such as the John Hearn Art Museum in Indianapolis, he wrote the following: "In contemplating the shining beauty of Chinese art objects, we must be able to look beyond the mere perfection of the article and fully realize the universal response to beauty inherent in these Chinese people. We should do well to emulate this trait, as well as others of their closely related characteristics, such as abiding serenity of spirit and gentle sympathy, which so largely control the human relationships of that great people. We will do well to follow his lead. We live in a world that is much different than the one Mr. Lilly left behind. Fast-paced work, endless emails, 24/7 news, and of course our phones, which are seemingly tethered to our bodies. And there's a relentless drive to always do better. Mr. Lilly was a great leader of our company, and he too was driven to succeed. But our surroundings today are a reminder of what else was important to him. It is not what we have, but who we are that is of real importance, Mr. Lilly once said. I, for one, agree with him. The postcard beauty of Corner Prairie and the Chinese house are surpassed only by the vision of those who build these wonderful landmarks. They have made Indiana richer, and you're important caretakers of this beauty. In closing, I have two final thoughts. First, we need to foster a cross-cultural understanding of one another. If not for his friendship with K.K. Chen and his strong passion for peace, Eli Lilly's interest in Chinese culture and art may not have evolved as it did. At our company, I am proud that we have a strong diversity and inclusion culture. In fact, Diversity Inc. ranks Lilly as one of the top companies in the US. When we open our hearts and our minds, we are often pleasantly surprised by what we find. Secondly, We need to be good caretakers of our world. So many people who are part of today's story, from Eli Lilly to William Connor to K.K. Chen, left their mark on our world, and not just with their day jobs. They understood the meaning of community and the importance of preserving the beauty around them. We should be grateful to them and mindful about leaving behind a better world for those who follow us. You are taking an important leadership in this space. Thank you again for allowing me to join you here today. Indiana is lucky to have each of you shepherding the success of Conner Prairie, and I look forward to seeing our continued evolution in the years ahead. Have a very pleasant evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Enrique. I think you would agree with me. We could not have found a more appropriate keynote speaker for the restoration of the Chinese house and telling that story this evening. Thank you for the timely words and the passion that you shared about the Lilly legacy here at Conner Prairie. So we thank you for being here this night. Taylor, we also want to thank you for being part of the question and answer. And I believe we have a little parting gift for both of you. You too can get this parting gift if you're a speaker at Conner Prairie. Or you can go to our retail center and we'd be more than happy to sell you this same gift basket. Isn't that right, Elaine? Where's Elaine at? I think she's in here somewhere. And if you didn't know this, I kind of joked about this, but now I'm going to turn it in to dollar figures. If you didn't know this, we make up these gift baskets and sell them all the time. So if you're looking for gifts in your corporation or for any special thing, Elaine can hook you up. Kyle, did I say that right? Where's Kyle at? Kyle's like, cha-ching. So once again, thank you for all the words that have been shared this evening. I think it's just remarkable when you think about this, the progress of this area. You look at this particular facility, the Bluffs, and you notice that it's overlooking the White River, and you have that Lilly legacy that's associated with that, the fact that Eli Lilly wanted to preserve this land that William Connor once owned. And if you follow going north and go around the Oxbow, because this is on the southern end of the bend of the White River, you go all the way around to the other side in the bend. Up on the hillside is the Prairie House. And on May 7th, I believe, we'll have substantial completion on the Prairie House, which is where is the base of our summer camp program. And it's not an accident that the Prairie House new addition has windows that look out on the White River, not unlike the bluff here at the Chinese house. It's really making a statement for how we're beginning to identify the fact that the White River plays a significant role. We really have two projects that we started in 2018 that we're completing now in 2019 that are almost bookends to showing that we are facing back out, and we know that the White River is a big part of our history. It's a big part of what we want to do moving forward. I want to again thank all of you for attending this annual meeting this evening, and I especially want to thank all of my colleagues at Conner Prairie. I truly say this every day. I mean, I come to work every day, not because it's a job, but because I see it as a responsibility. We're all passionate, and the creativity that all of our staff presents every day, it just always blows me away. So once again, I want to thank you for being such remarkable colleagues in what you do each and every day. And if I could have staff members that aren't already standing in the back of the room, if our staff members could just stand up for just a moment. Anyone who's a staff member at Conner Prairie, and that's a lot of you. For those of you that are not staff members at Conner Prairie, which would be the other half of the people in the room right now probably, I encourage you that when I say good evening, which is going to be in about 15 seconds, that you seek them out. and you ask them about what they're doing at Conner Prairie, what they enjoy about Conner Prairie, and you're going to hear some remarkable stories. So once again, I want to thank our colleagues. I want to thank you, our members and our donors, for the support that you give us. I want to thank our board of directors of the Conner Prairie Museum and the board of directors of our foundation for the remarkable job of once again controlling and expanding the assets that we're able to bring to bear for the programming that we do. So once again, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I think there's still some food in the back, so just enjoy seeing the Lilly Legacy Room and visiting with each other. Thank you, everyone. Have a safe trip home.